Yeah, I'll fix it. Oh. Oh, do you want to make those two announcements?
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, before we get going, you want to take attendance first?
Okay, I'll take attendance. Commissioner Alton?
Present.
Commissioner Lees?
Present.
Commissioner Brooks?
Present.
Commissioner Alvarado? Commissioner DePasquale?
Present.
Chairman Morelli?
Present.
Commissioner Alvarado is absent.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to make two announcements before the meeting gets underway. We have two cases. Case number 3397, which is 161 Grand Boulevard. That case has been adjourned. If anyone is here for that case, it's not going to be heard. The second case, which is 3344, that's regarding 658 to 664 West Broadway. That case is also been adjourned. There's no definite date set for that meeting at this time. So if anybody's here for the West Broadway project, that will not be heard. Thank you.
Case number 3395, application of Joseph and Karen Giacopelli of 34 Delmar Drive, Kendall Park, New Jersey, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the City of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.58 use, 9-1121 off-street parking, to convert, maintain a one-family house into a two-family house at 61 Tennessee Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 231, Lot 49, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application?
Make a motion to deny.
Who will second?
I'll second
Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to deny the application. Commissioner Lees has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
it. Deny.
Commissioner Lees?
Deny.
Commissioner Brooks?
Deny.
Commissioner DePasquale?
Deny.
Chairman Morelli?
Deny.
This application has been denied. Case number 3398, application of Maxwell and Michelle Medwed of 203 West Pine Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the City of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2G off-street parking. In order to maintain off-street parking in the front yard at 203 West Pine Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 53, Lot 76, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Are the applicants present? Come on up. Please give me your name and address.
Maxwell Medwed. You want to get up there?
Go ahead, both of you.
Yes.
So technically our address
Just
is...
give your name and address.
Oh,
for the
sorry,
record. That's okay, you can pull the
Michelle
thing down.
Medwed, 651 Magnolia Boulevard,
So, and also known as...
203
Yeah.
West
Yes.
Pine Street.
Great. So the question I just want to clarify before we get started even is that we're talking about maintaining, right? So it's already there.
Yes.
Okay. Did you get a summons for it, or how'd you
No.
end up
We're,
coming here?
we're trying to close out our permits for existing, which we were here last year.
Okay.
We got zoning for decks. And so we just kind of like added storage from where our garage is to where our living area is
Okay.
to do more of like laundry and stuff like that. So
Okay.
they basically,
Play area for the kids.
yeah.
Stroller.
Gotcha. So then,
We just had our third
so
baby.
then basically, tell me about the space that's in the front yard. How do you get to it?
So technically, it's not our front, it's our
On
side,
our side.
yes.
Our front is 651.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Right,
use
you're on the
Magnolia
corner.
as
So,
our front.
for the record, what side is it on? Is it on?
It's on
So
the
on the
line.
or
Pine
is it on-
Street
it's on
side.
Pine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
And there
sorry.
was a curb cut there already?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's one curb cut, right? Okay. And on that side of Pine, can you park in front of your house or no?
So,
Yes.
No, where the curb cut is. There is parking there?
so the
Yeah,
rec
and-
center, sorry.
And
Sorry.
I could pull into the driveway as well. We still have the space to pull a car into the driveway.
Okay. Yeah, but no, what I was asking is the curb cut already existed, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then basically what you did is, what did you pave it in, or how did you create a spot there?
So we live across from the rec center, so we have the parking like across the street. So we only have the curb cut on our side yard
Okay,
to pull in.
okay. So it didn't affect anybody's parking or anything
No.
like
No.
that? Okay, anybody on the board have any questions?
Do you own this house recently?
7 years.
'Cause it's been going through a lot of work lately, hasn't it?
We redid last year, yes, we added 2 decks.
Okay, I'm just checking if it's the house.
Yeah.
I recall seeing a lot of.
Yes,
work being done.
yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, anybody want to speak in favor or against this application? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant.
I'll second.
Case number 3398, application of Maxwell and Michelle Medwed of 203 West Pine Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2G off-street parking in order to maintain off-street parking in the front yard at 203 West Pine Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 53, Lot 76, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Alton has introduced the motion to grant the application. Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Lees?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner DePasquale?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You're welcome.
Case number 3399, application of Ahmed Hagazi of 185 West Park Avenue, number 516, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5B height for a new rooftop deck with outdoor kitchen at 78 Illinois Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 58, Block 112, Lot 14, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, Jim
Good
Morelli.
evening,
Kenneth Apple, 30 West Park Avenue, Suite 202, on behalf of the applicant. Obviously, you saw this case a couple months ago. The applicant was ill-advised. I was here that night and spoke to them immediately after, and we had long conversations regarding it. In any event, they bought this property in August of '22. They planned to build a new house. They knocked down an eyesore of a home. They're putting up their first new construction in the community. Followed the advice of their architect at the time. Built the house, always planned to have a roof deck, and the architect said, let's get the plans, let's get the house up, we'll go for the variance at that time. Apparently, the permits took a while. The architect said, just start it. It's a routine ask from the zoning board, and obviously, you were at that hearing, so you know what happened. After they consulted me, I told them we had to make at least some sort of substantial change, which they did. They're removing the spiral staircase in the front. There's now going to be an entrance to this rooftop deck through the house. The only variance they're really seeking is the 2.7 feet, which is only necessitated by the glass railing, which is 3 feet high. If it wasn't for that, they wouldn't need a height variance. The structure's not higher than it should be. The rooftop decks have been granted at 103 Illinois, 36 Illinois, 28 Illinois, 86 Illinois. Well, they've been put on these houses. 66 Virginia, 90 Minnesota, 62 Oregon, 47 Wisconsin, 47 Pennsylvania. So certainly a rooftop deck itself is not inconsistent with the neighborhood. Again, the structure of the house, it's a flat roof, so it's measured from the top. And the only thing we're seeking is the glass railing, really, that exceeds the height. So we're here tonight, obviously hat in hand, because they were here once before. They had to make a change. They did. I think the change they made takes a little bit away from the street view of this roof deck, because if you see it now, the spiral staircase leads up from the front. That's going to be removed. They're going to be coming in from the inside. It's only half the front of the roof. The back of the roof is actually a roof. They're all using the front part of the deck, and as we all know, on these 30 by 60s, there's very limited space to barbecue, leisure, hang out, whatever it may be. So to go through the legal criteria, I don't think there's an undesirable change to the neighborhood. As I've said, there's several houses with roof decks. This is a glass railing. It's really see-through, so the height is really not, seen from the street. A lot of houses have this. It's not a undesirable change. It can't be achieved by any other method. As we've put on the record many times in the West End, the only way to get any kind of living space or a place to sit with your family is to do these roof decks or these extended decks on these homes. We don't believe it's substantial. Again, it's a couple feet of height, which is only the glass railing, and it's not going to have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental impact of the neighborhood. As you know, it's going to increase the property values around it. Again, this is their first home they've done, and I was here that first night and spoke to them immediately. I happen to know the applicant personally, and they were completely unaware that it wasn't going to be routine. They had some bad advice from their architect at the time. My client would definitely like to address the board, particularly because of that. He wasn't here that night, and he'd like to speak to the board as well.
Just a question for you, too,
Yeah.
before you guys drop. So, I just wanted to know what they were defining a kitchen.
It's not, I'll answer that, Chairman. I don't even know why that's on there, because that didn't really require the variance. They're just hooking up the barbecue and putting a slop sink up there. There's no, it's not like some indoor kitchen that they're gonna, have some rental space for parties on. It's literally a barbecue that they could put up there anyway. They just wanna hook up the gas and have a sink that they could just wash stuff off without having to run back down into the house through the inside.
All right, very good. Do you want to speak, sir?
I just wanted to say, as Kenny...
Name and
Oh,
address.
I'm sorry. Amr Al-Gindi, 185 West Park Avenue, apartment 512, Long Beach, New York, 11561.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to say, like Kenny said, this was our first project. We are here local. We did not intend to do anything that was wrong. We followed our architect, which is a local architect, and we thought we were doing everything by the books. We really did not intend to do anything wrong, and we really just wanted to put out a very nice, beautiful product. And, we were very off-sided when this happened, because he told us this is just routine, and we were expecting it to just be a routine permit, and that was it. So again, I really apologize that this was not our intent to do anything wrong at all.
Okay, so just to summarize it this way, just for clarity. Basically, the spiral staircase has been removed or will be removed.
Yes,
The deck itself only adds, because of the glass railing, about 2 feet higher than the code. Otherwise, the structure itself would be to the code.
The glass railing is what brings it over the code
Okay.
itself. The structure of the deck, I think, is within the height.
And the rooftop deck will only occupy the front part of the house, and the back part of the house will remain as roof.
yes.
Okay. What's approximately the square footage of the rooftop deck, you know?
I don't, I can check it on my phone. It's exactly about half the roof, but I can see the exact size.
Looks like about,
Probably 25. You know, you're probably right, 20 by 20.
Okay.
20 by 20.
It's about 25 and a half square, so I'm gonna say it's about 25 by about 25 square, so it's approximately, about 600 square feet. It's like what I'm looking at just from the measurements. That's what the exact thing. Okay. Is there anyone on the board that has any questions?
The staircase, did you have to build a new one inside, or are you
Yes.
just removing a redundant staircase?
We're gonna remove the spiral staircase in the front, and we would build a new one inside the house leading up to the
So
roof deck.
There'll be a new penetration that wasn't originally planned?
Correct,
Is that what
yes.
you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. All right. For the record, I'd just like to make a point of saying that because it was brought up as an argument, this is very common or regular in the neighborhood. Several of these cases got through after Sandy, when everybody was new to reviewing these larger homes.
Okay.
It should not be viewed as a precedent,
Okay,
because a lot of them will be denied in the future as they come in.
Okay.
They've not worked out for some neighborhoods
Okay.
at all, because of the big parties up there and all of that, okay?
okay. And we would definitely not do this
I'm
without...
just letting you know
Oh,
that,
thank you.
don't view that as the reason, if anything,
Okay.
works out.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else on the board, any comments?
Case
Anybody who would like to
half
speak
the
in
deck.
favor of this or against?
Two.
Sir, you want to come up? Oh, man. Hi, give us your name and address and let us know if you're for or against.
Hi, I'm Carrie Hughes, 79 Connecticut Avenue. Hughes, P-U-E-S.
Casey Hughes of 79 Connecticut Avenue, same spelling.
You speaking for or against?
Against.
Okay, go ahead.
So we're both lifelong Long Beach residents. We own 79 Connecticut Avenue. We do not support the requested height variance at 78 Illinois Avenue, which is the house directly behind ours. We do not support it for the following reasons. The West End of Long Beach is a residential community with a long history of supporting many growing and young families over the years, ourselves included. Adding a party deck to a home that is already 3 stories high takes away from this sense of community we have in the West End. We do not feel it is appropriate to support a height variance for a party deck in a residential neighborhood on an otherwise quiet block where we have children and young families in the neighboring homes.
Okay, thank you. Next.
This will have a direct negative impact on all residents in the adjacent area. Aside from the loud parties, music, and overall commotion that this would create, it is in stark contrast with the values of our town. Long Beach is a place where you really get to know your neighbors, particularly in the West End, given the distance between each of the houses. And it is a place where residents come together and support and look out for one another. Having a home that is already 33 feet high and towering over the neighboring homes, adding additional height in order to facilitate a party deck does not fit within these values. Given that the home is already 33 feet high and significantly higher than any of the adjacent homes, there is no reason to support adding any additional height. Further, we feel it is a violation of privacy to have the home that is directly behind ours that goes above the allowable height, giving the occupants the option of looking down into our home, our outdoor space, outdoor shower, etc. This height variance is a self-created hardship from the owners of 78 Illinois Avenue. It will impose a negative impact on surrounding homes. Lastly, we have a letter from a bordering property owner who also opposes this variance request. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Can you submit that letter, please? And for the record, what's the address of the neighboring property?
77 Connecticut Avenue.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
You all keep referring to it as a party deck. What is it about a deck in and of itself that would make it a party deck as opposed to just a place where a family could have, you know, a barbecue for their family and eat?
The idea of the outdoor kitchen that was written on the initial mail that we received.
Okay.
Barbecue,
Not just
a
barbecue.
sink. It's, obviously not a deck to just.
I mean, to me, it's an outdoor kitchen. I mean, and I'm just asking. I mean, I'm not, I'm playing devil's advocate, right? So to me, right, I hear a barbecue and a sink. And in my head, I think, well, you barbecue a burger, you have a spatula, you have a sink you can wash the spatula in. Just because it's a deck doesn't necessarily mean it's a party deck. If it was used as a party deck and it was loud and obnoxious, I mean, the city has a code of ordinances where you could call the police and there would be summons and violations. So I'm just trying to, regulate the term in my head, if you will.
Yeah, it was really just a description of the outdoor kitchen that kind of led to that.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm just going to read into the record that there was a letter submitted to the board from a Barbara Lang at 77 Connecticut, who is in favor, I'm not in favor, I'm sorry, opposed to the deck as well. So, it's back to the secretary. Thank you very much, ladies. Was there anyone else that wanted to speak against or in favor? Joplin, you want to?
Share the same sentiment as council. I mean, we could have a party there without the deck. It's not going to change anything. It's a deck that's going to go to a family that's going to enjoy it. There's no intention of having a party deck. I was sharing the devil's advocate sentiments of council. But whether we have the deck or not, it's not going to stop somebody from having a party if that's the type of person that's going to buy a house for $1.5 million or $1.6 million. The 25 by 25 deck's not going to really have any further detriment.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody want to make a motion on the case, or do you want to wait, or? No? Okay, then we're gonna hold the case over. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, there's not gonna be a vote on this case. Thank you. Good night.
Voting.
What's that?
You're going to leave it open for voting?
Yes, the case will remain open for voting.
Case number 3400, application of 55 Arizona LLC, care of Cosmo Palmieri of 70 California Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.16A use, 9-105.16C side yard, 9-105.16E height, 9-105.16G minimum lot size, 9-113.2H off-street parking, for a new three-story FEMA-compliant house at 55 Arizona, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 239, Lot 51, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, Chairman Kenneth Apple, 30 West Park. On behalf of the applicant, who's 55 Arizona LLC, it's the Palmieri, so we're here tonight. Who, if needed, can answer any questions. As you know, this property, or you may not know, sits at the corner of West Beach Street and Arizona Avenue. The only reason these variances are necessitated is because of the mere fact that it sits on West Beach Street. If it wasn't on the corner property, we wouldn't even need a height variance. We're not exceeding the height limit. The lot size is more than required. It's 60 by 60. And the off-street parking are the curb cuts that currently exist. So we're just asking to park on one that's a little less deep on Beach Street to take 2 cars off the street. This is an applicant who owns a few homes in the community. He lives on California Street as his permanent residence. He's obviously made a tremendous investment in the community. What necessitated this to start off with, and I think it's in the pictures, is this house suffered a fire. It had substantial damage, so this caused him to consider this application and build a 3-story FEMA-compliant home. What's unique about this is, although it's on Beach Street and it's zoned commercial, it is a residential home. It currently is a residential home, and that's how it's used. He's actually pulling it off Beach Street. It's going to be more of an L-shaped home with most of the structure on Arizona. Again, this is a 60 by 60 double lot, and it's going to be, the house is going to be on the same location, other than it's going to be moved more towards Arizona. If he had an Arizona address and it wasn't on the corner, he wouldn't even need a height variance. He wouldn't need any of these variances. After the fire in October, he did decide to do this. He's here tonight for a reasonable request from the board. It's being used as a residential home currently, so he's really not changing the use. He's just looking to build a FEMA-compliant home where there is a current residential home. The second variance is side yard. It's FEMA-compliant. He's asking for the 1-foot setback on the decks, which is regularly granted by this board. The height that's proposed is 22.75 feet. That is under the height requirement of the west end, other than the fact that the house is technically on Beach Street. So he's going to be lower than his next-door neighbor, who could be at 23 feet. The lot size, it says the minimum is 1,800 square feet. He's got a 60 by 60, which is 3,600 square feet. Off-street parking, same thing. We're not adding any curb cuts. They're there currently. So he's going to have 2 spots on Arizona. He's going to have 2 on Beach Street. What we're seeking is to ask for a 16.5-foot depth spot on Beach Street just to take 2 cars off the street. So there's no detriment to the community in that either. The curb cut's already there. We're not taking any off-street parking of anything we're creating. To go through the legal criteria again, there'll be no undesirable change to the neighborhood. Most of these variances have been regularly granted. There's currently a home there, so we're just merely seeking to build a new FEMA-compliant home. It can't be achieved by any other feasible method. Obviously, we're putting a house where a house was. It's a commercial district. We have to ask for a variance to rebuild our home that was damaged by fire or build a new home. It's not substantial. Each variance application, as explained, is quite minimal in nature. It's not a self-created hardship. Obviously, this house suffered a fire, and now he's making a substantial investment to build a brand-new home, which is going to obviously be pleasing to the community, aesthetically pleasing, that is, to the community, obviously, from what's there now. So I believe you have a simple application, although there's several variance requests. Each one of them is easily justifiable and explainable. And when this is done, this project's going to have an overall positive impact to the community, especially the cars that drive down Beach Street and now see this nice new home as opposed to what's there now. I thank you for your time and your consideration on this.
So, Mr. Apple, I just want to clarify this, because as I read this, I know there might be some questions from people that are possibly in the audience and are, listening and following along at home on YouTube. If I'm reading this correctly, the big problem with all these variances that have popped up because the house is in the B business district, right?
Correct.
So the B business district zoning is what makes this unique because it fronts on, this side of it on Beach. So basically, if this house were 1 block away, as I read it, it wouldn't need any of these variances.
Correct.
So this house, 1 block away in the West End, could be built of as of right?
Yes. I mean, there's several houses on Beach Street that are built
Right.
as
So
of right.
the reason that this house pops up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 variances is because it happens to be on the wrong block.
Correct. And again, none of this would have been necessitated if it wasn't for the fire.
Okay. How is this different in the height? So I just want to ask you just one thing, the height, 2 actually, between this and the house that was there before. I'm assuming that wasn't a FEMA compliant house.
It's about the same height.
So the height that's requested here, even with the needing of a variance, is because it's got a FEMA lift.
Correct.
Okay. And the depth of the parking is deficient by 3.5 feet because it's on Beach.
Right, it's supposed to be 20 feet deep.
Right, but I'm saying, if you still had that same parking a block away, that would be all by right.
Right.
Okay.
I mean,
Board members
that part of the
board have
variance, Chairman, if, obviously, that part of the variance, we're taking 2 cars off the street, the curb cut's there. So, you're doing what the community wants, you're creating parking.
Huh?
If it was 1 lot to the north, off of Beach, it would be in residency. It's not even a block, it's a lot.
So, yeah, even 1 lot to the north would put it into residency, as council said.
Right, which I had said, our neighbors
Yeah,
wouldn't need
so
a variance for this.
one neighbor away would not need any of these variances, they could just build this house.
Right.
Do any members of the board have any questions?
Yeah, the only thing that's challenging is the curb cuts on Beach Street, which is such an area that struggles for parking. They exist already, you're saying?
I believe so, yes, they do.
So basically, it's the same footprint, they're just lifting it and rebuilding it because of the fire, is that what I'm?
Yes, I mean, they're moving the structure a little north, but, yeah, there's nothing changing regarding the parking curb cuts.
And they're saving an additional 2 spaces by parking on Arizona too.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Is there existing curb cuts in Arizona too?
I believe so, yeah. It's an empty lot now.
Anyone else? Would anyone like to speak in favor of the application? Anyone want to speak against? Hand in the back, come up. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Name and address, please.
Richard Papetti, 46 Wisconsin Street. I'm representing the West End Neighbors Zoning Board Committee. I'm now on that, so we're going to look at the different things. I know you've received a couple of different communications, because when we first read the things, there was some confusion as to what each one was, what use was, what the height was. I did have the opportunity to go and talk with a building inspector. I was shown the plans, I was better understanding, and I was able to relay it about the business B district to the zone, to the thing that the parking on both of them is existing anyway. But the West End Neighbors would just like us to get the point across that we just want to make sure that it's a rental for one family, and that there's no opportunity in it to turn it into a multifamily. We're very much against that, and why I'm here, probably 2 years ago, I was up here for a house on our block, a new house construction, and a few members agreed, and it would have been nice to follow through on it. A couple of the members aren't on the board anymore, but some of them are, that new house construction, especially in the West End, especially with height and use, there's enough there. We had neighbors say, you get plenty of what you need, with what the building department allows now. So we would like to, you know, like, hope that you still look at it, that no variances on new house construction in the West End. But this one, we just want to, we're against it if there's going to be a possibility of more than one rental in it.
Yeah, so, no, as I understand it, Mr. Petty, I just want to make it clear, you know, as what you're saying is on the record. You want to see that the construction of a house like this doesn't lend itself to some sort of illegal conversion down the road.
Correct.
That someone is going to make it into a two-family. So, you know, and I know, you know, you've been before the board many times. They have applied for a one-family. They're not asking for any kind of, you know, hardship, second kitchens or anything like that. The staircases are internal, so it doesn't lend itself. You know, you've probably seen some of the houses over the years, you know, you've been here plenty of times, where they try to put, you know, a staircase along the side of the house, or along the perimeter
Right.
inside the house. So all you have to do is put a couple of little sheetrock walls, and now you got a separate entrance going upstairs. But this isn't.
And I
that
could
type of
have,
construction.
if I was, you know, a little more on the ball when I was up at the building department, I could have looked a little closer at the plans and seen that too.
Oh, understood. I
So-
don't, listen, I completely understand your concern. I mean, you know, we're in a town that, we're like this. So
Yeah,
the
and we
bottom
want to
line
keep
is
that sense of community
you
and
want to have,
not
you know,
too dense.
as much air as you can get.
Yeah.
And not have, you know, extra people cramming into a home illegally. And, you know, you will hear us turn down, you know,
Yes.
houses that are looking to get converted and stuff. And I don't think that this is one of them.
Okay.
So, and again, as, you know, I did mention to the board, I don't personally think it would be fair to penalize somebody only because they're one house off, that it would
Right,
need any
correct.
variances at all.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, you know, it's almost like a technicality, you know, that brought them here.
Right.
All right?
Yep.
Okay.
All right,
Well,
thank
very
you.
much. Anybody else, just to make sure there was nobody else? All right, go ahead, Mr. Alba, come on up.
First, I'm never going to agree with an opposing person. He's 100% right. There's no intention of making it a two-family. My client owns a few houses in the community. He's never had an issue with any building department violations regarding occupancy. And certainly if his intention is ever to use it as it's not supposed to be, then there's mechanisms in place that, you know, I
Yeah, the
completely
layout
agree with.
doesn't lend itself to easy.
And there's no intention of that. Thank you.
Okay. Fine, does anybody want to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to grant.
Second it.
Case number 3400, application of 55 Arizona LLC, care of Cosmo Palmieri of 70 California Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance on the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.16A use, 9-105.16C side yard, 9-105.16E height, 9-105.16G minimum lot size, 9-113.2H off-street parking for a new three-story FEMA-compliant house at 55 Arizona, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 239, Lot 51, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Lees has introduced a motion to grant the application. Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Lees?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner DePasquale?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted. Case number 3401, application of Louis Iodici of 22 Tennessee Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5A use to construct a new two-family house at 48 New Hampshire Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 253, Lot 4, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman,
Good.
Commissioners. Dennis G. Kelly, 120 West Park Avenue, Suite 311, Long Beach, New York, here on behalf of Louis Iodici and his daughter, Joe Bergaris. Luis Iodici and his wife, Lucille Iodici, own a house at 48 New Hampshire Street. I've submitted the photograph, obviously, of the front of the house. It's in very poor condition. It was substantially damaged as a result of Sandy. The Iodicis, subsequent to Sandy, rented an apartment in the West End. and have lived there together until recently when Mr. Iadici suffered a medical setback, which required him to move to Rockland County and live in his daughter's apartment in Rockland County where she could be his caregiver. That's Ms. Brugaris, as I just mentioned. They're both here this evening. I'll have Ms. Brugaris address the board after I'm done. This evening, they're seeking to build a FEMA-compliant house that in and of itself requires no variances, no area variances. But we are requesting a use variance, actually a special use permit for a 2-year, what ostensibly is a mother-daughter. One apartment of this newly constructed house will be for Ms. Brugaris, and the other level will be for Mr. and Mrs. Iadici. They understand this is a 2-year special use permit, that they will have to come back every 2 years to renew the permit, and that the permit would end when both Mrs. Iadici and Mr. Iadici are no longer living at the home.
Well,
That's our application.
I can tell you, Mr. Kelly, so after, hearing what you just said, basically, when I was first, reading the case over before this evening, what popped into my head is they're building something new from scratch. Why are they coming for a two-family? Because it seems to me that if you're building something, and it would be a possible hardship, if you're building something from scratch, it might be simple, let's say you put in the 2 kitchens, et cetera. It could be cheaper than if you already had a one-family existing house, and now you gotta rip apart the house and, resection it and put a kitchen in and everything else. And sometimes those people have to rip out those kitchens, like when they sell the
When
house,
it's done,
they
right.
do a double of installing. So even if they had to rip out this kitchen in a brand-new house, quote, brand-new house, it was probably easier to build it in the first place than someone who had a one-family existing for 30 years, and now they want to build a new kitchen. So quite honestly, had I not heard your presentation, I would have had the question of why aren't they just applying, or would make me feel a lot better if they were applying for a conditional temporary variance, which usually, as you know from your experience before this board, when people are coming forth with a new construction, they just want a flat-out, straight-out two-family house. So hearing, that there is a hardship and a physical hardship, I'm assuming that those are the Iadicis that are there.
Yes.
I certainly understand that a family use, if you want to call it conditional use, mother-daughter, whatever we're going to, term it as, would certainly sit a lot better,
Yes.
as a new construction.
I noticed when I
Instead of
first,
flat-out two-family.
when I first picked up the package from Mrs. Lynch, I saw that the denial was for use, a two-family. And I explained to, Ms. Brugaris that I don't think that's going to fly with the zoning board. So,
Yeah, no.
but the accommodation, given your hardship
Yeah,
and
it's
the,
just more of an accommodation, it's
Right.
not a two-family house in perpetuity that's brand new, and why do you need to do this? Where's the hardship? Where's the financials? So, with all this in mind, I'm gonna open it up to the other members of the board in light of the fact that there's no other variances sought by this application. Any members of the board?
Yeah, I'm still confused. It's a new home, right? So
It is a new home.
They're gonna build it like a two-family home. right?
yes, the plans.
Conditional two.
But we want a conditional, right.
So in other words, undoing that two-family build will almost be impossible. It will always be a two-family, let's face it.
Well, I think,
Every 2 years.
well, after Mr. and Mrs. Iadici leave the premises and Ms. Brugaris comes back here and they're no longer there, then an inspection would have to be done and one of the kitchens would have to be removed.
I know, but it's gonna be laid out in a way where that would even, let's face it. I just think that the layout will lend itself to being permanently two-family. It's not gonna be designed like living room, dining, downstairs, all bedrooms upstairs, unless I'm missing something about the layout. But having said that, the other thing is if it's a hardship, why don't we just go for one family, make it a smaller house?
Well, because they're building a FEMA-compliant house. I mean, as you can see in the photograph, the house was devastated and is, in extremely poor condition.
It has to be another few $100,000.
What's that?
The extra floor will have to be another few.
There's no extra floor.
Pardon?
There's no extra floor. It's a it's a two-floor house.
I'm saying if they had just had like, one floor above the FEMA level, it could be a one-family home. and then-
Well, it's kind of tight for 3 adults. I mean, that's kind of tight for 3 adults. I think in the classic mother-daughter,
I'm just thinking on behalf of the resistance to increasing density down there, that's all.
I'm with you, Commissioner Alton. That's why I made it very clear to Ms. Bergaris that, this is not in perpetuity. This is until the Iadicis are no longer there. And that she will have to come here, as I do in at least one particular case for the last 14 years, every 2 years, to talk about what the status of the house is and where her parents are and so on and so forth. And then I would assume, given my knowledge of the building department, that an inspector will go and have a look and say, this has got to come out and that's got to be moved, right? I mean,
I can certainly understand Commissioner Alton's concern, Mr. Kelly. But unfortunately, what ends up happening is, I understand and I can see that the layout of the plans, just the way that the floors are laid out, they are completely separate, units in a way. But the question also arises, something that started out as a one-family and, was dormered out or was converted to a mother-daughter, even though the term technically doesn't exist yet, could just as easily be maintained as a two-family down the road as well. Just by ripping out the kitchen doesn't necessarily mean that a one-family can't be used as a two-family if there's an internal staircase somewhere going up to the second floor. So the question is does this layout specifically make it always a two-family house, no matter how the kitchen is situated or laid out? Or is it a house that feasibly, could be converted? I mean, anything could be done, basically, but could it feasibly converted back to a one-family house just by taking out the kitchen, maybe moving around a couple of walls? The staircase along, this is something we talked about before. The staircase to this home is along the side wall. Typically, the zoning board over the years that I've been on it has had issues with staircases that are along the side wall, because sometimes those staircases with side walls, can lend themselves to putting doorways in, to putting in a couple of sheetrock walls, and now you will have a two-family forever. So, I mean, I think, with respect to what Commissioner Alton was saying, is there any way of modifying the design a little bit so that that staircase is more internal? And really, you're looking at, from the get-go, a one-family house that has a second kitchen, second living area, laundry area. But really, if something happened to the situation of the Iudice family, would this be a house that would be readily converted back into a one-family and not lean in the other direction where you got a staircase along the side wall, let's just throw another door in there and, we'll just keep it as a two-family. Am I correct? Commissioner, this is your concern.
Well, I think that converting it back to a one-family is actually more work than converting a one-family to a two-family. It looks like, to me, it's a big job. And then, obviously, it puts a burden on the building department to check what's going on there. Just cap off a few pipes and people move in, they pop them back in. I just think that if it looked more like a one-family home that we'd like a kitchen here for a couple of years, that would be one story, but it doesn't look like that to me, that's all.
I think that, and to piggyback on what Chairman Morelli and Commissioner Alton say, or, have said, the thing that is entering my mind, or the thought that I have is, in a number of years when, the Iadices no longer reside at that home, then essentially, I mean, I'm sorry, ma'am, I forgot your last name.
Bergaris.
Ms. Bergaris at the home, then at that point, it's very, I mean, we've seen it here a lot, where now the person comes and seeks a new temporary conditional variance based on a financial hardship. So in essence, what the board is ultimately granting is, in perpetuity, if you will, a legal two-family, under the guise of a temporary conditional.
Well, then why do we have conditional use permits? Why do we have mother-daughters? I mean, we can make the same argument about every mother-daughter. In fact, we even have our suspicions about every mother-daughter. I know that from my own experience.
There's a lot of violations all over town.
Right.
You can be sure of that.
Right.
But the ones that we're familiar with a couple of months ago, for example, somebody who did have a one-family home and they made a kitchenette for their mother, and then they asked if they could keep it going until her husband retires, that kind of stuff.
Right.
It does happen, but this is being designed in a two-family layout.
I don't know if this is much different than the standard two-floor FEMA-compliant house, except there's a kitchen. I don't know if the issue of the staircase, and I get what you're saying,
That's what I think it is.
Mr. Chairman, but if I had put that staircase there without putting the kitchen on that second floor or first floor, which way you want to look at it, would it have been a concern?
I personally think that if the staircase were, let's say, in the middle of a living room or in the middle of a, whatever room you want to pick, it would certainly have sat a little better, because even when, let's face it, even when the staircase is, not necessarily along the side wall, things can be maneuvered around when you can get up to the second floor without necessarily having, let's say, continuity with the first floor as an apartment. But again, it speaks to the fact that this being built from scratch, and there's a little more latitude, with the design. Again, I am very happy, and I applaud the fact that this is only a temporary conditional variance, because if this were a flat-out, let's say, request for two-family, for the two-family CO, I would be viewing this differently, I'm happy about the fact that it's conditional to start with, I think the only questions that we're really having, Mr. Kelly, is there anything that could have been done a little differently to have lent itself to a house that could be converted back to one family without too much done? Right.
Well, I don't know, because I'm not an architect, whether moving the staircase is even feasible. I mean, maybe Mr. Alton or Commissioner Alton sees a way, but you're going to have one kitchen on top of the other. And we're doing a lot of speculation here. You're not taking into account them and what they need now and what we traditionally have done in this town. You've done it.
Well, traditionally, we've turned so many houses into this. I mean, I see houses on B Street that are three families and nobody even knows it. And it's just.
There's a house in our neighborhood not far from you, right down Pine, that's clearly at least a two-family, if not a three-family.
There's a lot of them. And it's,
right. And part of the issue, if I beg your pardon, Commissioner,
the town
is
is
that.
under a lot of pressure with these additional residences. That there's so many pressure points in this town.
I don't disagree with you.
There are.
Right. But I'm not disagreeing with the potential difference in the layout. I'm disagreeing in looking at the pattern and then saying that this family is not entitled to it because of the pattern. Right? There's nothing to say, and I understand your suspicion and your concern.
It's hard to say brand new construction. We need a hardship allowance for a second apartment, especially if they're two identical stacked apartments. That's all. It's a little different from the normal type of conditional request.
That's what I think Mr. Kelly was saying, that, and I know, listen, you've been on many years here. The thing is, well, I think that I have never really seen, and I'm trying really hard to remember, in my recollection, all of the mother and daughter hardship cases that we have granted, and we've granted tons of them over the years, they were always existing homes that, mom and dad needed to move in, or, an ill relative or whatever, and it was already an existing house. There wasn't one family, let's convert it into a quasi two-family for now. I don't remember, quite honestly, I don't remember any brand new construction.
I don't disagree with you. I don't either. Right.
That's
But this one's a little unique because the Iadicis couldn't afford to repair the house they've been carrying the house nonetheless, there's no mortgage on it, they've lived someplace else. So Ms. Brugaris has been trying to get them to build the house. They haven't gotten it together to do it. Now all of a sudden, Mr. Iadici has this medical setback, which requires a caretaker, and his daughter, his loving daughter, brings him up to Rockland, and basically she's now saying, what am I doing with these two? I'm going to put myself, we're going to put her on the deed, right? Right now it's Lucille and Louis as husband and wife, and we're going to add their daughter with rights of survivorship, and she's going to mortgage the property to build the house. So she's been put in this position after having tried for years to get these two, when I say these two, I'm talking about Mr. and Mrs. Iadici, to do this. So, you know, now she doesn't want to forsake, you know, her standard of living, right, with living together with them, you know, and let's say one floor. She's doing it with 2 floors. I get it. I get your concerns.
But it's all family, right?
The 3 of them are family. That's it. The 3 of them.
So that it could be laid out in a way that it's clearly an open house, except, you know, I'm on this floor and you're on that. You know, do you understand?
Yeah.
This is not laid out that way. This is laid out like a legal 2-family.
When you say laid out, if I you know, you have seen and I have seen where, you know, the mother-daughter, one's a distinct apartment and another is a distinct apartment. I think once you divide it up, you have 2 different apartments there, no ifs, ands, and buts. I moved my in-laws in, we didn't do any of this. We shared the same kitchen, you know, we lived together as a family. But a lot of people don't. But most people don't, right? So I don't know if, I don't want to make a representation to the board that I can go back to the architect and he's going to, you know, change this in such a way that's not going to, you know, change the way you're looking at it, Commissioner. It's still going to have 2 kitchens. One's going to be on top of the other. That makes sense. It's plumbing. Bathrooms on top of each other. Having 2 bathrooms in a 2-floor house is not unusual at all. I just, sometimes, you know, the precedence is also here to do this. You want to say something?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Address, please.
Joe Bergaris. I live at 5 Tennyson Drive, Nanuet, New York. The reason for the way the house was designed, I believe, again, I'm not an architect, was to maximize space and also because we're putting in an elevator so Dad can get in and out of the house. The reason he's not living back in New York now is because the apartment that they did rent has 20 steps to get into and he's unable to walk in it. I have Mom living in Long Beach. I have Dad living in Rockland County, trying to get us all back in one home without me sacrificing my entire identity, you know, trying to do the best I can by my parents. But I do believe that that's the reason for the way the layout was because of the elevator and maximizing room sizes, if that makes any sense. And also the parking spaces underneath.
Excuse me?
The
Yeah,
parking
I get
spaces, we're trying to maximize that as well.
It looks like the elevator comes straight up the middle, which I don't think is unusual, does it?
It's in the corner.
Is it?
Corner, yes.
Yeah, right behind the staircase.
Yeah, the whole
The closet?
quadrant is
Yeah,
staircase
this is.
elevator.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, you're right, I see it.
Are there any other members of the board that have any questions?
Just one quick question. Who's on the second floor, who's on the third floor?
I'm on the third, my parents are on the second.
Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak in favor or against?
evening. Christopher Schroeder, 46 along New Hampshire Street. I'm the property just south of the property. Before hearing the hardship situation, I looked at the property myself. I came up and looked at it. To me, it looks like a two-family, and it's going to be a permanent two-family after this situation passes. I'm not an architect, but I feel like if a family is going to live in a house, they could have been a little bit more thoughtful and potentially a little more organized as to how to incorporate a two-family situation like this instead of looking like a two-family that's going to be a rental after this variance supposedly expires. I sent a letter, Robin should have sent it out to you, but that letter was strictly on the plans that looked like it was eventually just going to be a permanent rental. If you look at the vicinity of the area, Lily's, Grata, 7 Days, and all down the western part of the street, it's all rentals. So I'm looking at some consistency in my neighborhood, and I get the hardship. I'm a physician, so I understand the condition, but I feel like if this is granted, it's going to be a permanent solution or a permanent situation. And I don't know how long the board, you sit on the board, but 4, 6, 8 years later, how do I know that this is going to turn back into a one-family?
Well, the only, like with any of these that are granted, even as, homes that are already constructed, at that point, as Commissioner Walter said, even if you had a home that was built as a one-family and existed, and a couple comes and they're like, yeah, we want it until mom and dad, live with us, and then the situation changes, they don't get renewed anymore, they take out the second kitchen and, cap off a couple of pipes. Many of these homes already have second entrances, et cetera, so then it becomes a question of enforcement. Obviously, what we grant has to be enforced by someone. And unfortunately, we don't do the enforcing, as you probably know. And so what ends up happening is, whether it be this home that's, looking more like a two-family box, let's say, or a home that was a one-family originally and had conversions done to turn it into a two-family, or a mother-daughter, let's call it. Many of them have a second staircase, or have this, or have that. That, again, when the situation changes, basically we have to rely on the enforcement of the building department that's gonna happen. So, yeah, maybe the situation makes it look on the outset that it is more two-family-ish, but the problem still lingers when any of these situations change in any of the mother-daughters, if we want to use that word, that we have created. It becomes a building department issue, unfortunately. Because there's nothing to stop someone who has a high ranch, or someone who, one-family high ranch, there's nothing to stop someone that has a cape that's dormered, putting in a little side door, and up they go. So, yeah, it's something that concerns you, and I get it. But the problem is that anytime we grant any of these hardship, variances, or family second kitchen variances, even when there are situations of religion and second religious family kitchens, when the situation changes, there's always that possibility. And unfortunately, it's nothing that we can control as a board. It's up to the building department.
Yeah, so I'm just worried that it's just going to turn into a permanent situation.
I don't blame you, I understand.
I feel like the architect could have been a little bit more creative.
Yeah.
Instead of making a complete identical 2 floors.
Understood.
That's my only concern.
Understood.
And I understand the hardship. I was strictly looking at the property. I'm still just strictly looking at the property.
Yep.
I feel like the architect, if they could redo the design, they could make it work. Instead of having 2 full kitchens identically, have a kitchenette where that person uses. If they're family, I don't see why they can't mingle here and there. They don't have to be completely separate. My worry is there's just going to be another permanent rental in that immediate neighborhood, and there's going to be nothing I can do about it. And if the board is gone and they come back and somebody says, well, I have another family member that I need a hardship, I don't know how long the terms are, but the mindset of the whole board could be completely different. And now it's permanent.
Yeah. Understood.
That's my only thoughts.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Mr. Kelly.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, there's only one means of ingress and egress, the front door of this home. And I'm not sure if the configuration can change. I never expected this. I really never expected this. I'm not saying that Commissioner Alton's questions aren't good, they were good. And I get the point. But I have never seen this board hesitate for a second in this situation. And I know that's because this might be a little unique. It's a new home.
It's also just defending our, we're residents of the town too. We go around getting hammered by random people all the time over how could you allow all this density everywhere. It's a huge issue that we live with every day.
Right.
You understand that?
Right.
And look at something like.
But that's your job. And I did it. I did it. I get where you're coming from.
I do feel like I've got to really think about the entire community in addition to this individual case. We've got to think of it in a balanced way, right?
Whoa. No, I'm not going to necessarily agree to that. We have a particular situation, a particular family, a particular piece of property, and they're asking for, as a result of a hardship, they're asking for a 2-year special use permit, okay? So I don't see how that's any different than what's been applied by other people as well.
It's different because it's brand new construction, and despite the fact that there's one door going into the house, the entire staircase and elevator is a demised area. It's a composite area. It's demised. It's separate. This is like a
So what would you do? Where would you put the staircase?
There's a lot of two families have internal staircases that are totally demised off, where this is the first floor, this is the second floor. It's laid out that way.
So what, we'll move one staircase onto the other side?
No, I'm saying it's.
You can't get past the fact that it's a 2-story house, right? There's nothing really we can do to ameliorate the situation? To give you some confidence?
I look at the staircase totally demised on both floors. It's not one means of in and out. It's not. There's a common entrance, like building.
Right.
The staircase going, here's the first floor door, go up second floor door. Okay, that's how.
You have to, I just talking to Ms. Begaris, her understanding of the layout and his mind, looking at it, is that you have to walk through the first floor to get to the second floor.
No, I think the layout, if it were a one-family house, would be a little different, and there could be a way to do it for one family to accommodate and still have their separate kitchens and baths. That's all I'm saying. And it would be more desirable for somebody to buy and say, this will be our one-family home. That's all I'm saying. It's a comment about the layout. It looks like a two-family home. I'm sorry.
Right.
And it's brand new.
But I'll guarantee you that you, and I'm not accusing the zoning board in any way, shape, or form, you've approved many a home that you never foresaw would be a 2-family home, that are 2-family homes, like we were just discussing before. So we have this problem. It's not a problem of the layout, it's the problem of the mindset. Or it may be a problem of enforcement. I don't know.
Enforcement is a challenge.
You know, and I'm not blaming the building department by any stretch, because it's a huge task.
It's a burden of enforcement too, but we don't
Right,
mind that.
right. And what you need to do, you know, what I think the building department requires is you have to pick up the phone and call, right? Somebody's got to make a complaint.
But it's also the fact that, to what you said earlier, Mr. Kelly, I mean, I think the hang-up for the board is the fact that it's new construction, right?
I don't buy that. I'm not buying it.
You don't have to buy it, that's what I'm saying, that's what they're saying.
I know, I get it. I can listen, I can hear, I can perceive, I get it.
I fully understand.
I get it.
Okay, I understand that.
But-
But the thing is, so here's my question. How would they not achieve the same benefit if there was one kitchen in the home and as a family, I mean, like, you're still achieving the benefit of the caregiver caring for the parents, and then at the time when the parents are no longer residing in the home, then the caregiver has the home to herself?
We've never done that. When somebody comes to look for a special use permit and say, the whole point, right?
You've
So,
also never given a temporary conditional variance in this magnitude on new construction either.
you're using words that don't apply. This magnitude. There's no magnitude here.
I didn't
This
say
is
magnitude.
You just did. You just said on this magnitude.
What I said was, we also never applied, we never granted, the board, as far as I know, the board never granted a temporary conditional variance on new construction either. For
Okay,
new
so
construction.
what does it have to do with the price in tea in China? I mean, I don't get it. I get Commissioner Alton's argument that, you know, this kind of looks like it's too easy to be a two-family. That's what he's really saying, right?
Because the hardship, at least in my mind, right, the hardship itself is, you know, you have a one-family house with one kitchen, and then something comes up, as was already said before, and then you have to install the second kitchen, right? Where's the hardship? If you can afford to purchase, to build a brand-new house with 2 kitchens in it, there has to be an alternative means that you can afford to do to accomplish a similar benefit.
No, what I've said, I don't necessarily disagree with Commissioner Alton. I'm not hearing, or maybe I have to go talk to the architect and say, what could you do here? What sleight of hand can you come up with in order to demonstrate that this is in fact an easily converted or not easily converted two-family house? And you're speculating. You know why? Because you could take my house, you could take any house, you probably could take Chairman Morelli's house, or even for that matter, Commissioner Alton's house, and make it a two-family. If you want to, you can do it.
Understood.
So what the assumption is what they're proposing is going to be a two-family. And I'm flabbergasted that it's even a conversation.
Okay, but
I think that the layout, we're doing one-family home, but we're going to ask for a couple of years to put a kitchen up here on this floor. And if we saw a one-family home layout with that intention, it would be a little bit of a different approach. But it looks so two-family to me. It just does. I mean, perpetuity. Somebody will be here in 2 years, somebody will be in here in 4 years, somebody will buy the house and say, oh, we didn't know when we bought the house, this happens to us too, that it wasn't legal. This kind of thing happens, and you wind up in this position over and over again. That's all. And this is lending itself to that. And it will be that, regardless.
Well, you can say regardless, but if the kitchen's removed and capped, which should be the requirement after the IDGs leave, and I get that, you know.
There's a staircase totally demised that lends itself to making this very easily in perpetuity. It does. Okay, that's all. I mean, my comments are done.
So I'd ask you to consider the hardship over the concerns and fears relative to a new house. I mean, she's trying to do the best, she being Ms. Begaris, is trying to do the best she can with what she's presented with. And I think she's doing a great task. A benefit, by the way, to all of us, in the sense that her parents hopefully won't have to go into a nursing home and waste those resources when they can live at home together.
if the home only had one kitchen, the same home with only one kitchen, and Ms. Bergaris was willing to take care of her parents, but all of a sudden the second kitchen is the only reason why now she's able to or willing to take care of her parents?
Well, you know, you make a lot of assumptions. If you want to move your mother-in-law in, you got to ask yourself, do I want to see her every day, right? Or vice versa, father-in-law. I want to see him every day, and I have to be with him. I have to be on call.
She's the primary caregiver. She has to see them.
Now you're making.
That's what you said.
Yeah.
She
Yes.
moved her father to her apartment in Rockland County at 5 Tennyson Drive, I believe it was, so she could be his daily caregiver.
And she can't do that anymore.
Then what is she going? Then how is she going to care for him at this house?
You're going to have more space. It's going to be living. She's taking the resources that she has and trying to make a pleasant life for both. I think your suggestion is way out of line, because we've done mother-daughters here for God knows how many decades, appropriately so, and it's the understanding is, yeah, mom wants to still have her independence. The couple doesn't, it's usually a husband and wife. Maybe their kids are grown, maybe they're not. They want to have their independence, but they want to be there on call at a moment's notice to run up the stairs or run down the stairs to get to them for whatever reason. That is the classic mother-daughter, which is, almost traditional in Nassau County. It's almost traditional, and it's a separate bathroom and a separate kitchen. And that's why, even though I understand Commissioner Alton's concerns, that's why I'm just flabbergasted. I mean, I thought this was a no-brainer, but I'll leave it to your discretion.
Someone else had a hand up. You spoke already. Go ahead. You want to come up real quick? Get another question. Just give us your name again.
Chris Schroeder, 46 New Hampshire Street. Sorry, Christopher Schroeder, 46 New Hampshire Street. SCHROEDER. I do just want to point out that the public knowledge that we have on the internet, this specific variance has never been brought up. So I'm wondering if it's ever, so it is precedent. The other thing is, I don't understand the frustration by the individual representing the family. This building hasn't been built. It hasn't been started. This building, when I moved in 2019, it was boarded up. I talked to the neighbors. It's been boarded up, not since Sandy, but Irene, I believe. So this has been sitting there for who knows how long. I don't understand why the frustration is there when new renderings can be made and coming back to making it specifically a multi-use one family. That's it.
Thank you.
I'm going to say one more thing, because I'm going to be the advocate for my clients. You're assuming something can be done. Commissioner Alton is, and so is the doctor.
But aren't you assuming something can't be done?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so-
I'm
so
not
then why don't
assuming
we all
that.
agree that maybe that we all don't know what can or cannot be done, but at least have the conversation, the dialogue, and keep it open. Neither one-
Commissioner Alton has said repeatedly
Okay.
that they're demise staircases. He hasn't offered, because he knows what he's talking about. I know he does.
Okay.
He's not saying to me, just move that staircase to the other side.
I'm not even saying move, I'm not saying having separate staircases. I don't think there's any reason to enclose the staircases, period. They're all family. I just don't see the reason. It should be laid out like one family and have a second kitchen upstairs for the parents. That's all. But it's not.
But isn't that when you say demise, what are you saying about the plans?
I'm looking at these staircases completely enclosed. And it looks like, I think you can get all the way upstairs without even looking at each other.
So so our understanding, if we look at A201, which I guess is the third page, is that you would go up the staircase that's in the foundation, and then you would have to walk through the apartment to go up the staircase to go to the next apartment.
That Oak Hill corner looks as though it's just, it can be very easily separated. That's really, let me see. Second floor. First floor.
If you want some, Mr. Kelly, if you want some clarity,
Yes,
just
please.
looking at the second floor plan, what Commissioner Alton was talking about. If you
What
look at
page are you on, Commissioner Reese?
I'm looking at A101. If you look at the second floor plan, the one on the left, where it shows you the whole second floor, when you look at the staircase, you could see on the bottom of the staircase, there's a 36-inch door that swings open into the hallway, which makes the entire staircase closed. So that wall that's running up along the side of the staircase is closed in. So you could literally walk up.
So let's just talk about that, because I'm trying to follow you. So if we're looking at the plan, the second floor plan, which is actually the first living area, correct? That's a staircase that leads from the foundation up to that second floor, which is the
Yes.
first livable floor.
Yes.
That door is to close off the staircase relative to the foundation, yes? And I think,
That door
now
looks
maybe
like
the
it-
concern that Commissioner Alton has is on,
that door closes off to the staircase. So if you put a keyed door into that door, you're creating a separate residence.
but then you can't get to the next floor. There's a door on the top, there's a door at the bottom of the stairs that lead from the foundation to the second floor. Then there's a door there, right? That door, I'm going to say, is in order just to close you off from your foundation, probably for heat efficiency. Then you walk across, you walk past the laundry, and you've got to go up another flight of stairs up to the third floor, which is on page 102. There's no door at that staircase. You literally have to walk through the first floor apartment to get to the second floor.
Looks like you go up from the ground floor, there's a door on the left, you loop around right to the next floor. That's what it looks like, okay? So,
Which one are you looking at, Commissioner Hall?
I'm going from the ground floor to the first floor. Looks
Right.
like you go up, you come right out, and you loop right up to the second floor. And that whole area could easily be just divided into a separate area. That's what I'm saying.
You're talking about the walking past the laundry
Yeah.
back over to the staircase.
You loop around.
Yeah, but what he's saying is you can close this all off. Yeah, then you have that side of the house that you can't access. I mean, I think I still get your point, but I think we're contorting it. We're trying too hard. But, yeah, and you also know that ostensibly, a lot of these FEMA houses are in fact boxes, one box on top of the other.
I understand that.
And we know people have done it without even coming and asking. All right? I've even had clients where I brought in and they're coming to ask, and you never knew that they had done it. Anyway, again, I'll leave it to your discretion.
Okay. Anyone else? Would anyone like to make a motion? The floor should remain open for voting.
Let's discuss this a tiny bit more. I'm thinking it has to be,
So, Mr. Kelly, the case will remain open until voting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Case number 3402, application of Karen Leone of 32 Illinois Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5A use, 9-105.5B height, 9-105.5C front yard, for new front yard entry with terrace and decks at 32 Illinois Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 58, Block 103, Lot 52, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, Dennis Kelly, 120 West Park Avenue, Suite 311, Long Beach, New York, 01561. Here on behalf of Karen Leone, who owns the home at 32 Illinois Avenue. I think if you look at your package, you'll see that a photograph of the house, along with a letter from architect Howard Curtis, stating that the existing porch, one of our old-fashioned porches in the West End, is dilapidated and literally falling onto itself. And as a result, Ms. Leone is seeking to replace that porch with a new terrace and deck, one for the first floor, one for the second floor. And the variance she seeks in doing so is an area variance, bringing the porch to within a foot of the front yard property line.
Okay, so basically, at this point, we're dealing with height of going up like 2.5 feet of over the code. What was the reason?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
The height.
The height is pre-existing.
What was the height?
It's pre-existing height.
Pre-existing.
Pre-existing, okay.
I'm sorry.
All right, so then basically, at this point, we're talking just about the decks.
Yes, sir.
The entrance and the decks.
Yes, sir.
At this point, what is the size of the deck that's being built? Basically, the 1.1 foot setback is what we are routinely granting.
Right.
But the deck is coming off how far off the front of the house? As what was here in brick? This is coming out, what, maybe about 4 feet or so to the front of the house. So you're demolishing that entire front of the house, am I correct?
That's correct.
All right. So basically now you're bringing that deck to within 1.1 feet of the property line. What's happening on the upper floor where that other deck is?
That deck's coming off and a new deck is going up,
So
which,
they're going to be exactly the same?
and one is going to be directly right
Directly
over the other, as opposed to that, you see that metal awning?
Right.
Obviously, that disappears.
So yes, my question about the height is none of that is changing the facade of the house.
If I understand your question, the answer is yes.
Right, so basically all we're really doing is going to remove the brick. We're going to extend the deck out 1.1 feet and that brick cement area where that front door is. Is that going to remain as their front door under the deck or no?
Yes, I think it's depicted actually on the drawings. If I could show you, I think it's on page 2. Yes, if you look at A1, which is the second page of the 2-page plan, you'll see that the door is still there on the left.
Okay.
And now there's barn doors for the garage.
Very good. Yeah, and that covering that's over, let's say, the deck, that's right now the small deck up top. Are they gonna have a covering like that over the top deck?
No, I don't, well, they're going to have, if you look at the right elevation again on A1,
Right.
they will have a cover over, it looks like it's been penciled in, a cover over the top
Okay,
deck.
gotcha, I see. All right, fine. Are there any questions from the members of the board?
Am I right? It's just an extension of deck, right?
Yes, sir.
No questions.
Anyone else? Anyone from the audience want to speak for or against? Move to grant.
Second.
Case number 3402, application of Karen Leone of 32 Illinois Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5A use, 9-105.5 height, 9-105.5C front yard, for a new front entry with terrace and decks at 32 Illinois Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 58, Block 103, Lot 52, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced the motion to grant the application. Commissioner DePasquale has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Leese?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner DePasquale?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you.
Case number 3368, application of 17 Prospect LLC of 335 East Olive Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2B height, 9-112.1 off-street parking, 7-131B. For a new third-story addition, interior alterations at 156 Franklin Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 173, Lot 107, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, Dennis Kelly, 120 West Park Avenue, Suite 311, Long Beach, New York, 11561, on behalf of the applicant, 17 Prospect, and its principal, Alan Gutterman. For Commissioner DePasquale, first off, welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I'll give you a little background. So my client purchased the house and started to do work on the house without having gotten the proper permits, including some gutting that was being done in the basement, as well as taking down an old, I don't know if I would call it a garage, as much as it was a carport on the back of the house, because it was going to fall. As a result of doing the work without the permit, building department came, stop work order, and then we came to the board to address the newly built garage. This is back in July of 2023, and also sought to maintain the dental office. So this is a two-family house at 156 Franklin Boulevard. If I'm talking too fast, you'll let me know. And I had a C of O at one point in time, and it was a C of O that my client relied on when he purchased the house, that listed the house as a two-family house with a dental office in the basement. His hope was to maintain the the use of a two-family house along with a dental office or an office downstairs, but it turns out that the building department had deemed the basement, the dental office, as abandoned because it wasn't used as a dental office for we don't know how long. So as a result, given the reaction of the board relative to our presentation back in July, my client has submitted new plans to make an application for not a use variance, and obviously acknowledging that the dental office no longer exists, is seeking area variances for, one, the garage. If you remember, the garage is too close to the side yard setback. So that would be the southern side of the property, wherein 2 feet are required from the wall of the garage to the property line, and we're proposing 1 foot, 4 3/4 inches. So we're asking for a variance of 7 inches, 7 1/4 inches relative to the garage and where it's placed on the property. The second variance, which is and that was a variance, by the way, that was in the previous application in July of 2023. The second variance is an application to increase the height of the house to add an additional story to do what? To create now 2 two-floor apartments. So what we would like to do is take the basement and create that as 1 floor of a duplex apartment, which would include the first floor, and then add 5 feet to the height of the house by lifting the roof and creating another floor so that we have another duplex apartment in the house. So there would be 2 apartments, both consisting of 2 floors. Currently, the house to the midpoint is 28.3 feet. What we're proposing is a height of 33.3 feet. So we're asking for 5 feet in the height of the house. So that's our application relative to the area variance to increase the height and the area variance for the 7 1/4 inches to maintain the garage where it was built. As to the height, I have photographs that I've made for each of you. I believe it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 photographs, each marked with addresses on them. If I may, Mrs. Lynch?
Yes.
There's 9. I think.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lynch.
Robin? There's another 9 photographs of the garage. I'm also presenting you each with a photograph of the garage. The members who were members back in July will have seen this before, and I'm doing it so Commissioner DePasquale can take a look at what's there.
Huh? Yeah. I just want to ask you, Mr. Kelly, I'm just a little confused here. As the relevance of these photographs, is it just trying to show that there are other homes that are just very large and tall?
Tall, right, yes. It's a matter, I'm making the argument of character, that what's being proposed is not necessarily out of character, at least as far as the height is concerned. And
Let's get back to that garage.
yes, I thought we'd go there.
As you know, there was a lot of discussion in the last time this case was heard about the garage. So now, what are the changes that have been made? And you know the concerns from the case when it was heard the last time. What are the changes that have been made again, for the record, with that structure?
as far as I know, what's going to happen to the structure. That structure, everything is exactly the way it was left pursuant to the building department stop work order. And Inspector Shu has been diligent and paying attention. So nothing has happened. That's number one. Number two, the violations are still in court, and Judge Klein is waiting for some sort of resolution. I'm just giving you an update. And he knows we're back here. I don't represent Mr. Gutterman before Judge Klein on the violations. Another lawyer does. So what'll happen is, first, that step is, it'll be, brought down to accommodate a car being driven up. My understanding as well is that the door that you see there, the beautiful French doors, those are coming out, and we will have a garage door there. There is a portion of it that I don't think the building department has objected to, which goes into the backyard a little bit, which will be basically a storage area. But the front will be a real garage in which you can park a car. On that point, as to off-street parking, the driveway is 17 feet, 8 inches wide. You can accommodate 2 cars parking next to each other. And where the staircase, the recessed staircase is on that southern side of the house, it's even 14 feet wide there. So the garage is going to become what you and I would consider a traditional garage. I know that Commissioner Acevedo had an issue with the outlet that's there. The outlet, there's an outlet, electrical outlet on the outside. But I don't think that's uncommon necessarily either. I have a bunch of them on my house. I guess they just thought they would put one on the garage.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had a real quick question, getting back to the house now and the height, levels, and everything. Currently, as the house sits, you have a first floor and a second floor apartment, correct?
That's correct.
How many bedrooms per floor?
I can ask Mr. Gutterman. Look, you can come up.
So,
Step up and introduce yourself. Give an address.
okay, Alan Gutterman, 335 East Olive Street, Long Beach, New York. So the existing structure has 2 apartments that are tandem, right? They have 3 bedrooms in them and 2 baths on each floor.
All right, so you have the kitchen, 2 baths, 3 bedrooms, each floor.
Each floor, yeah.
All right.
The house was built in 1965, and the internal structure doesn't really lay itself well to a modern living situation, but that's the way it is, yeah.
All right, so you have the 3 bedrooms, the 2 baths, and a kitchen, and other
Right.
stuff. The new plans you submitted show 4 stories. The first story of each duplex level is their kitchen and things like that, and the second level to each one has 4 bedrooms, correct?
I think it's 4 or 3. I don't
It's
remember.
4 bedrooms. It's
I
3
think-
bedrooms
I
and
think
a master bedroom.
there's, let me just take a look at it. I think it's 3 or 4 bedrooms.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
3 bedrooms and a
So the way
fourth
it's set up is there's going to be 2 identical duplexes, the first and second floor being identical to the third and fourth. Living quarters on the first floor, which will consist of kitchen, living room, home office, and above that will be an internal stair that will lead up to the second floor, as would be in a traditional home or living space with, I believe it's, I don't have the plans.
What floor are you talking?
The second floor. Does it have 4 bedrooms in it, or 3
Yeah,
bedrooms?
both the second floor and the fourth floor have
4 bedrooms?
3 regular bedrooms and a master bedroom.
And a master bedroom. So it would be 4 bedrooms. The house is basically designed for a family. That's basically the way it's being laid out. So we're laying it out to basically accommodate 2 families and best use of space in regard to the basement and first floor. That's basically it, because we've basically, dropped this whole argument of what was there, supposedly was there in regard to when I purchased the house, in regard to the dental office. And we went back to the existing code, which we found the letter in the file that said something to the nature of that the house is a 2-family house. So that's essentially what we're leaving it as, is a 2-family house. We're just enlarging the living space to accommodate a modern family and to maximize the utilization of it without having to abandon the basement or do something stupid with the basement. So that's basically what we're doing. And then we're raising what we're really doing is we're raising the center ridge line up 5 feet, basically, which will then almost like dorm out the upper area to essentially accomplish the second floor above. The surrounding houses in the area, which make it, not unusual, as you can see from the pictures, because I happen to I've drove the area too, and Dennis drove them. We were both separate. And I came up with almost the same houses that he came up with, which have height variations probably 10 feet above the ridgeline of the height ridgeline of that neighboring house. Even houses, I have 4 houses that are within a half a block of this house that have higher points on the ridgeline.
Not to cut you off, so why, again, just think about the money you're investing in your investment. Why not just keep the first floor and the second floor as apartments, because you already have the kitchen, you already have the bathrooms, you already have the 3 bedrooms established, as is. And then my second point is, with all the photos that you submitted, I understand the heights of some things, but a lot of these homes are single-family homes.
No, there's no.
The photographs, Commissioner Lisa, are submitted. If I may, the photographs are being presented to the board just as to the issue of height. By the way, also so the record's clear, this is not 4 stories, this is 3 stories. Also so the record's clear, Mr. Gutterman thought he bought a 2-family house with a dental office. The 2 stories there now, above what was the dental office, are 2 independent areas. In other words, they have their own means of ingress and egress.
Right, they're
okay?
separate stairs.
So in order to make use of the basement and attract the value that he thought he was going to get with the dental office, now he's proposing just to make 2 duplex apartments to attract a greater return on his investment.
Also to attract a better type of tenant as well, because the house that was built in '65. It lays out like a 1965 house, and it's not very attractive even to a family to live in that small space that's currently there. The rooms are very tiny, the bathrooms are very tiny. They do not, I would not be able to attract the quality of person that I would want to attract into their neighborhood. And I live in the neighborhood because I wouldn't rent it the way they look. They look like something my father lived in from 1950. It's just not amenable to modern day living. Bathrooms that have stall showers that are made of concrete. The house needs to be remodeled and modernized, and it has to reflect what would be a family living situation in this current environment.
What would you estimate the cost of this type of renovation, especially with the raising of the roof?
So I think that based on what I have internally, I have a good structure in front. I have a good bones, and it's not like some of the other things that I've seen in Long Beach, where there were 2x4s instead of 2x6s in regard to the building of the ridges and the rafters, and it's in pretty good shape as far as that goes. And I think the house primarily has really good bones to it. I'd say somewhere between $250,000 to $300,000 to do this work entirely.
How long have you owned the house?
Now over 2 years. It's
What
been
did you pay for the house?
$1 million.
And also, just so, because we basically were discussing something similar in an earlier matter, even though the dental office was abandoned, the house was used as a 3-family house.
There were people living in that floor.
There are 3 meters on the house. I think I presented that to the board in photographs before. So I think my client is just trying to make the most of his property. I also believe that this is the type of housing that will be attractive to a certain demographic, maybe a family who can't afford a house, would like to live in a house with some space in it. It could, and get 2 families like that. So, I'm going to make the argument that what's being proposed is not out of character with the neighborhood, not detrimental to nearby properties, won't have a detrimental environmental impact. It's not substantial relative to, certainly not the garage at 7 1/4 inches, almost de minimis. And as far as the parking's concerned, even though I understand the building department's denial because it's looks like a driveway with a one-car garage, you actually can get 2 cars on the pad side by side.
The existing curb cut.
And if there's a hardship here, it's relative to the loss of what he thought he was getting in a dental office.
Now, I have a question about you mentioned 2 duplex apartments. The duplex apartment, which is the lower unit, that also consists of having the dental office as part of that unit, right?
Yeah.
How would you gain access from the main floor, which I'm assuming is now the first living space floor? How do you get down to that dental office or to that
Well,
duplex
there's right now, in the front of the house, there's two egresses, one on the side, on the right-hand side, which you see is a bump out, and there's also an egress in the front of the house as well as there's an egress for that unit in the front going up a flight of stairs as well, with the two tandem staircases.
So there's an internal way.
And I'm gonna put an internal one.
Is there an internal staircase between the basement and the first floor?
Not right now, but I will build an internal staircase down in that unit that will take us up to the first floor. But essentially, there will have 3 methods of access or egress, but on the current plan, he shows an entrance there in the front when you come up as well, because he's not changing the facade.
I don't know if Mr. Gutterman's answering your question, Mr. Chairman. So if you look at A2, which is the second page of the plans, the proposed basement floor plan indicates a staircase that is with a landing that goes to the next floor,
Yes, right here.
and then leads to the first floor.
Leads to the first
So
floor.
the basement and the first floor are connected.
Mhm.
Yes.
The second floor has the same thing. It has an L platform staircase internally as well to connect the 2 floors together, which will then give essentially a mirrored footprint and a mirrored outline of both units to be identical as far as for operating systems and for layout of the existing space utilization. So they're just 2 mirrored units on top of each other. The house is, right now, a 2-family house, and will stay the same way to code.
Now, when do you anticipate, let's just say, of what was going on with the city in terms of the court, for the violations? Where is that at right now? Everything's been just put on hold pending?
Yeah, we said we were coming in front of the board in regard to the variance of the 6 inches on the right-hand side, which is the southern neighbor. We're basically one cinder block. It's one cinder block over too far. And that's what we're asking for the variance, because it's a 6-inch cinder block. And then essentially, we'll go back to work and we'll get all the permits. As I said, I agree, what we did was wrong. I admit to the fact that we took that thing down, that was falling down, and put something back up. That was wrong, it was off by 6 inches. I even told that to the judge already. And so, that's not the issue. He's waiting for you guys to make a decision in regard to the variance, and then he basically will, Judge Stein said he'll just close this thing up, because he says this has been going on for over 2 years now. So as far as the situation goes, nothing's changed. The house is just sitting there. And you guys have been out there. We can't do anything. We're just sitting there and letting it just sit empty and vacant and deteriorating, quite honestly, which is not an asset to the community. And, I can't do anything. So, I don't know what to say. What should I do? The house is abandoned.
By the way, and I haven't appeared on this case in criminal court, but just particularly Judge Klein, given his extensive experience, not that Judge Miller doesn't have it, but he's got Judge Klein's got a different type of experience. He very well could issue a fine, and it may even be substantial. I don't know what's in his head, because I believe the issue there really is having done the work without the permit, right? That's really, right? So even if we come to some sort of resolution here, I wouldn't be surprised if Judge Klein, and sometimes it's hard to tell what he's going to do, but with my clients, you may remember the Millers, and we had a deck and blah, blah, blah. He hit them for a serious fine for having the kitchen downstairs, right? In a house that previously had a kitchen downstairs. So he's tough. I think that Mr. Gutterman and myself really saw, in fact, I've never seen Commissioner Acevedo like that before. And Mr. Lupo's cross-examination back in July as, you know, a wake-up call relative to this. I will also say that, and he brought it on himself to a certain degree. The issue with the dental office, I think, is something that happened to him that was just, he never saw coming. But he spent a tremendous sum of money at this point to try to get to where he thinks he should be relative to the architect, my fee, the lawyer handling the criminal. So, and I think, and you know, that he realizes that he blew it. And I had said to him early on, you know, you get off on the wrong foot, it's hard to get back to where you'd like to be within the community, especially as a contractor. So if you were asking, you know, what has resulted from this, I think a few good lessons have been learned.
So what I was asking the board was, and it's kind of like the cart before what comes first, the chicken or the egg, or the cart before the horse. We had a similar scenario in the sense where someone did some work, they didn't have the proper permits, they came to variance, and what I requested was that the board allowed, got the case open for voting, and allowed the criminal case to resolve itself, because sometimes what I've seen from previously being a prosecutor down there is that and nothing against you personally, Mr. Gutterman, just from my experience, that when somebody goes before the court, and if a variance is granted, the court sometimes, you know, has viewed it as all sins are forgiven. And I didn't always necessarily agree with that, being a prosecutor, right? Because that was, my job was to, you know, for a penalty. So it's kind of, so, you know, a part of me wants to say, you know, to the board, like, you know, after we hear from the audience, regardless of what the board does, is to keep it open for voting to allow the criminal case to resolve itself. But I guess where the difficulty comes in is that Judge Klein is saying that he won't resolve the criminal case until the zoning matter is resolved.
Well, hold on 1 second. So you nailed everything right on point, but it's what Judge Klein wants to do. So
Judge Klein has a little bit more gravitas than Joseph.
So it's gonna, you know, he may say, okay, I'll do that, or he may say, no, go finish your thing at the zoning board and I'll let you know. I get your point, and I don't think we would have a problem with that, but yeah.
Well, as you saw, Mr. Lupo, and you were there already, I think on multiple occasions, that nothing is basically going on, it's just sitting there, and I'm just burning through money and lawyers' expenses, and I realize I did something wrong, and I regret that I did what I did under the circumstances, and it was let's put it this way, on all sides, this thing has not turned into what I expected to be after 2 years. Everything from the C of O and documents that even you yourself found literally that nobody ever saw before.
Respectfully, it could have been avoided.
Yeah, it could have been avoided, and I understand that, but on the same circumstances, as I said to him, I had title companies go through those files and everything, and nobody saw some of this stuff before, and you literally saw it the day before he saw it, and I didn't know, and I bought it under, you know, let's put it this way, unfortunately, there's a lot of wrinkles in this whole situation that I think that hindsight is 20/20. I can't go back and change the circumstances on which I bought this property in regards to the representations that were made to me by people and everything else. I can't do that. It doesn't make any sense. My position is right now, let's all work together as a community. Let's get this house looking good and representative of the same community that I'm living in, and essentially bring in nice people to live there and stop the eyesore from continuing to deteriorate, because there's not been anybody in this house for years now.
I'd like to hear from the audience. No other members of the board have questions. Anybody want to speak in favor? Okay, who wants to speak against? Mr. Rapp. Are you representing a group?
I'm representing a group. I'm not sure who's going to speak, who's here, but I was retained by a couple of the neighbors, Kenneth Apple, 30 West Park Avenue. Obviously, my testimony at the last hearing remains. I know you weren't here. Not only were there no permits taken out, stop work orders were not adhered to, and the work continued. So the structures that are there now could have been mitigated had they adhered to the first stop work orders instead of continuing it. So to say you come in with clean hands, you're only 7 inches from the property line is kind of deceiving. The neighbors on Penn Street are objecting to the fact that this huge structure was built. It was a carport. It was built without permits. It was continued to be built after the building department ordered them to stop, which is part of the violations. And now they have this massive structure which is too close to the property line. It extends out into the backyard. I know they said it was going to be storage. Apply for the proper permits, come to the zoning board, and then get your garage. It was called the garage at the last hearing. We all see by the pictures that our suspicions were it wasn't going to be a garage at all. Regarding the height, it's our position from the neighbors on Franklin and on Penn Street that this is going to create a negative detriment to the neighborhood. It's 5 feet over where it should be. It's already 3 stories of living space. As you heard, the downstairs, which was the doctor's office, the CO, that whole issue, it's living space. So now you're asking for four stories of living space, an additional variance to maximize the profits of the house. Yes, it's sat for 2 years. I feel bad for the applicant, but you easily could have renovated what was there, done it right, and put 2 tenants in there 2 years ago. To come and ask for relief so profits could be maximized, 2 years later, after a disregard for the building department over and over again is to me, it's not reasonable. And the neighbors are opposed to it. Like I said, some of these houses that you have pictures of, they're 3 stories. It's a 4-story livable house with what's being proposed based on the fact that the doctor's office, which is going to have access to the first floor, is already living space. Yes, I understand the applicant didn't know that he couldn't use that as a dental office. I get that whole part. What I guess whoever wasn't on board at the time, I was representing the original seller that sold to him. Prior to his contract, I had the seller and I put it as a 2-family house. So I knew personally that the doctor's office wasn't going to be approved. I can't say he knew that. I'm sure he didn't. I'm sure that part he's telling the absolute truth about. But a lack of due diligence on the representation at the time doesn't absolve him from the ultimate result. But it is living space. So now he's asking for 4 stories of living space to maximize profit on an investment home. And that garage is going to remain after it was built without permits, too close to the property line. That's the neighbor's objections. My testimony from the last hearing obviously remains. I understand he's looking to correct it, but our position is, why can't you just renovate the house or renovate it? You're going to spend $225,000. You could have renovated what's there and had it rented a year and a half ago. Thank you.
Was there anyone else, individual? Yes? Come on up.
Good evening. Chris Sattler, 522 East Beach Street, Long Beach, New York. Gentlemen, this is the second time we've been here. I have never even heard how the one in July worked out. But I get incensed when they keep calling the structure in the back of the house a garage. It is not a garage. It is on the property line, which is against the law. This is a man who says he owns 4 houses in town, and he said he had no idea he needed permits, he needed surveys, he needed architectural drawings, he had to get a whole series of permits. When I rebuilt my house, I did all those things. You're supposed to have 3 foot at least on each side of the property line for fire access. This building that he threw up there, and he did it sort of in secret when he had big trucks in the driveway, so you couldn't see what was going on behind it. And there was never a garage there. I've lived here for 35 years, in that area for 35 years, and there was a fiberglass like roof thing with no walls on it, hit 3/4 of the way down the driveway. If you look at your pictures of this so-called garage, you'll see it was permanent. The The sliding glass doors were permanent. They were framed in. They're only 6 feet wide at tops. You can't get a car through that. And there's a step up. You have to take a concrete step up to get in. There's 2 doors, and there's 2 windows. And I don't know if you guys have been in there, but I don't know. As far as I remember, you're not allowed to have plumbing in a garage or electricity. I don't know if that's still pertinent or not. But, you know, he just built this thing. How could you not know you have to have permits? You have to get the corner of this so-called garage structure that is on the southwest corner of the garage thing. It's only 18 inches from the corner of the main house. There's only this much space to walk between the houses. And it's not a 3rd floor going on. It's a 4th floor. Just look at the photos. And then he wants, what, 5-car off-street parking for a doctor's office or something? Where are you going to put those? The driveway's not long enough, and where are they going to just cement over the whole front of the house, which is not even that big? And it's just, it's not a commercial area.
So just for clarity, they're not looking for the doctor's office anymore. Just so you know.
Okay. And, you know, as I said, like, what were the repercussions for doing all this work without any permission at all? You know, I just don't get it. And I'm a little flustered now because I'm a little angry. But I mean, you folks have seen all the photos and everything, correct? And you know, that the man behind us on the western side of that garage thing, it's right on his property line. I just don't know how it could be permitted to be left standing. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, was there somebody else? Yeah. Ben.
Patricia Cahalan, 109 Franklin Boulevard. I've lived and owned in my house for 33 years. Diagonally across from the house that Mr. Gutterman bought. That house has never had a dentist's office for as long as I've lived there. There's never been a doctor's office. There may have been a doctor's office at some point in time, but since I've lived there, there has never been a doctor's office. And I appreciate the board's concern for the prior couple that was here, the daughter and father, about making the 2-family house permanent. But I don't understand how we're going to allow an additional story to be built on a 2-family house, and we're going to take everyone at their word that that's going to remain a 2-family house. How do we know that that's not going to become a multi-family house? I think we need to really rein this in. That house has always looked the same as it's looked today for all the time that I've lived there. My son's 22. We walk past that house every day to go to the bus stop for school. And that structure behind is not a garage. It's a living structure. So that's all I have to say. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Somebody else, sir?
I'll be quick. I know it's getting late. My name is Bob Brennan. I'm in the neighborhood, and I just wanted to explain to you the arrogance and the disrespect that this man has shown to this city up to this date. I don't know him, but I just don't like the way he's been proceeding. And it just bothers me. And I would suggest that you take a ride down and take a look at this house in this neighborhood. And go there on a summer day and just check out the parking situation. But what bothers me most is his disrespect for the city. And if you look up his history, you'll see it. And thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Come up, man.
Joan Sattler, 522 East Beach Street. I had a question on, if he's going to do all this internal work, is it still, if your 51% work, doesn't it have to be FEMA compliant? Will he have to, all these homes that they're saying are so much bigger are all FEMA homes that have no living in the bottom floor. They're just garages or, so now if he's going to do all this building, it's going to be more than 51%, right? Do they still have that law?
Yes, not necessarily, I mean, from what I understand.
So it was only a law when I built the house?
No, ma'am, it is the law, it is the law. But I mean, and I don't have estimates in front of me, but I mean, just going based on the testimony, the home was purchased for $1 million, and his renovations are $250,000 to $300,000.
Never happened, 250, 300,000.
Just going by what I was told, ma'am.
Yeah, well, that's, so then why not fix the two floor, even use the bottom floor, make it the bottom floor and the first floor as one family, and then the top floor as another family. You need 4 bedrooms, there was only 3. He couldn't survive with, 6 bedrooms. You can have, I mean, if he doesn't have to FEMA it, why can't he make the first and second floor his duplex, and then the third floor a 3-bedroom? Why do you have to add 5 feet higher than every house on the block as it is? And I don't think 2 cars can go tandem on that driveway. Have you seen the driveway? Where are you putting 2 cars side by side? It's a straight driveway. I don't know. What do you think? No? So the FEMA thing is not a thing?
I don't think it's not a two-car driveway. That means one can go in first and the other one behind it.
Oh, behind.
A
Oh.
coordinated,
I thought when I built my 2-family, you had to
They had
have
to work together
to,
and pull cars out and
so that you could be able to pull one out without the other.
No.
Okay, well, good luck. Thank you.
Hi, Brandy Byer, 112 Franklin Boulevard. He said side-by-side parking in that driveway. How big is that driveway? What's the width?
It just looks, I'm looking at I drove by it, so don't miss my point.
But Mr. Kelly said that it was 2 cars could sit side by side.
Are they side by side or tandem? It looks tandem.
You can't do it. Especially if he wants to make it all that thing, so you're gonna have families with a lot of children. So you're not gonna have a small car. You're gonna have a minivan, which is gonna take it. But he did say side by side. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Kelly, you want to just wrap it up? Or?
So I just, to answer a question that was just posed to you, checking with the City of Long Beach tax assessor, the structure is valued at $865. So it would take, $430 some odd thousand to tip it over into substantial improvement. I understand the neighbors' concerns with the way my client behaved early on. I also obviously understand some of their other concerns as well. But I don't believe that what's being proposed is out of character with the neighborhood. Yes, it's a little different in that it's 2 duplexes. It is 3 stories, but it's still only 33 feet tall. The garage will be a garage when he's able to continue doing the work at some point in time. And I'd ask the board to seriously consider the application, because I think if we look at the 5 factors, putting aside his prior behavior, if we can do that, I think it would qualify for area variances. With that, I'll thank you for your time and wish you a good night.
Okay, the case is going to remain obviously open for voting. If you want to submit anything else,
We will. Thank you.
No extensions,
All
everything.
right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. This concludes the meeting of March 21st, 2018.